Hi Dosers, want to welcome you to this. Thank you for clicking and watching. My name is Taylor. I'm one of the junior high pastors at our Vista campus. I want you to think through some of the greatest invitations that you have ever received in your life. I still remember in 2016, my aunt invited me to go down to Petco Park. You see, the home run derby, the all-star game was in town that year, and I was able to go and watch the home run derby portion of this weekend. And it was amazing being there, seeing these players hit home runs further than in a normal game. Also, I remember earlier when I was a freshman in high school, my brother invited me to go to a Lakers game. I had never been to a Lakers game before, and let me tell you, it was like the coolest game to go to because Kobe Bryant had a game-winning shot over Dwayne Wade, and the Lakers won that game. You see, those are just some of the cool invitations that I've received in my life. I wonder what the cool invitations are in your life. But I want to start off with that because today we're jumping back into our parables series, and Jesus is going to tell a parable about a king who's inviting a bunch of people to come to his son's wedding supper, the wedding banquet. And it would be like the coolest invitation ever in the world to be invited to a prince's wedding supper. And we see in the story that some people actually refuse this invitation and they say, I'm not gonna go. And then we see other people in the story actually mistreat and persecute and abuse those that are inviting them to this wedding feast. And it makes no sense at all because it would have been like the coolest invitation in the world. And the parallel that we're getting at, that Jesus is getting at in the story, is that every single one of us are being invited to a wedding feast with Jesus. How cool is that? It's the gospel message. Even though we are not deserving of it, we can be in union with Christ. But I think we all know people that refuse it. And logically, it doesn't make sense to those of us that have accepted the invitation. See, the parable continues where Jesus says that some people actually accept the invitation and they show up to this wedding feast. But there's one guy in particular that the king has a problem with. I want to read it to you. It's here in Matthew chapter 22, starting in verse 11. It says, "But when the king came in to see the guests, he noticed a man there who was not wearing wedding clothes. He asked, 'How did you get in here without wedding clothes, friend?' The man was speechless. Then the king told the attendants, 'Tie him hand and foot and throw him outside into the darkness where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.'" You see, the man that accepted the invitation was eventually thrown out because he was just there to enjoy the blessings of this feast. But because he didn't change, he had the same fate of all of those that refused the invitation. And I think what Jesus is getting at in this parable is that if you are a person that has accepted the Lord, then you're going to see that through your actions. You're going to see that through your behavior. See, the Holy Spirit's going to come inside of us, and he's going to start to speak to us areas that we need to change. And we as believers need to get to the point where we step out in faith and we trust those things, and we start to see a change in our lives. But if you've accepted Jesus, but there is nothing different in your life, then I wonder if you really have accepted the invitation to follow Jesus. I love the way that author C.S. Lewis put it. He said, "If conversion makes no improvements in a man's outward actions, then I think his conversion was largely imaginary." Let me ask those that have accepted the invitation to follow Jesus, is your life different in any way? And if your answer is yes, that is awesome. We applaud that. But let me tell you, the sanctification process of becoming more like Jesus is a continual thing. And let me just challenge you to have the faith to keep just listening to the Spirit and changing. But for those that would say, I don't really recognize any change, then how about you really spend time with the Spirit and you ask him for faith and you ask him for friends that will surround you so that you can make those changes. Following Jesus means there will be change. Is there change in your life? Thanks. We'll see you next time.